Hey, what's up guys, EdgeTips here, and welcome to my second Java tutorial. In this video, we're going to learn about if statements and methods. Alright, so let me illustrate you an example of where methods in if statement could be useful by using a subtract method. So we want to write a program where we want to subtract two numbers, and these two numbers we're going to ask it from the user. Alright, so let's begin. Like we've seen in the last video, we're going to make a variable called scanner for our inputs. So let's call that input again, equals new scanner, and system.in, okay. And we're going to hover over the scanner problem and import what's missing, and that's it. Alright, so now we initialize our scanner, and now let's take in two inputs. So int num1, so I'm just going to call the first number that I take as num1, and I'm going to use my input variable that I created to get the integer. So next int. All right, now I'm going to take the second one. So int num2 equals input dot next int. There we go. And now what we need to do is to create the difference variable. So this is going to store the result. So int difference equals, all right, so here we just want to create this variable. We don't want to just put something yet. So in Java we can just create, but we don't have to initialize. Now what I'm going to do is do difference equals num1 minus num2. All right, so here we need to deal with the negative numbers as well. So we're considering the num1 being greater than num2 if we don't want to deal with the negative numbers. So in order to deal with that, what we need to do is to use if statements. So an if statement in Java is when you want to, it translates quite good to English. Basically, it's just saying if this happens, do that. So in the if, we're going to write, like I said, if we're assuming num1 being greater than num2. So this is, quite straightforward. And it's going, so the code when it gets executed, it's going to read here. And if this is valid, so if in fact num1 is greater than num2, it's going to execute the second line. However, if it's not, then this is where the else comes in. So else is when this is not met. And since this is a 50-50 chance, so num1 can be greater or it can be smaller. And the third scenario is when the two are equal, but that doesn't matter because it's just going to give 0 anyways. All right, and so else we want to write num2 minus num1, and we want to store this into difference again. All right, so we have now written the logic behind. Now we need to display this. So what we can do is just do a system.out.println and write difference. All right, let's see if this works. So all we got to do is run. Now we're just going to write our two integers. We can also write an instruction for the user. Actually, yeah, let's do that. All right, so so an instruction, always helps the person who doesn't know what's happening. If you want to show this to a friend, why not? So they're gonna know what's gonna happen when they run. All right, so let's say please type two integers. Press space, press enter after each number. Okay, and that's it. So now we're gonna run this again, and there we go. So I'm just gonna put, I don't know, 60, 90, and there we go, 30. So even though num1 was 60 and num2 is bigger, it went to the if, it said, oh, num1 is actually not bigger, so let me go here. And there you go. All right, well now that's cool, but suppose I want to run this again, and I just want to run it until I want to get a, I don't know, specific difference. What we can do is So option A is to just copy the whole thing and paste it with, change of variables as well, because we can't use the same variables, or we can also erase the int and change the values that we used. So that's one option, but it's not the best one. As you can see, it's taking a lot of space. So the best option here is to make a thing called a method. In Java, a method is something that's used to make ourselves a lot more efficient. So if suppose I want to write this again, we can just create a method with this inside, and then I can call that 100 times if I want, and I don't have to write this again 100 times. So this is our main method. Now we're going to make another method. So we want to specify the keyword here is public int, and then we can write whatever we want. So for this method, I'm just going to write subtractor. You can call it whatever you want, and we don't want to pass any parameters. So a parameter in Java is when you want to pass an information through the main method, but in this case we just need to do the same thing, get 2 integers from the user, so we don't really need to pass any parameters. All right, so now what we're going to do is copy the whole thing here and just paste it right here, and now we can just get rid of this in the main method. All right, so now it's going to say there's an error. That is because we don't have any return statements. So the moment we create a method, if it's not a void method, if it's something like an integer method, we want to return a integer. So this is when I'm done with dealing with these numbers, I want to return the difference. All you gotta do is return difference, and now it shouldn't have any errors. There we go. So a method in Java, there's 2 things to consider. So the first one is, what do you want to do? Do you want it to return something? Do you just want to print something? If you just want to print something out, we can just raise this int to change it to a void. So now it's going to say, hey, it's a void method. You don't have to return something. So that wouldn't be there. But now we want to return an integer value. And so we're going to write an int. If it was another type of, like suppose a string, I would just write a string here, but then I would have to return a string. And now we would just want to return the difference. All right, so if we go back in the main method, if I want to call this method, all I write is the name with what's in the parameter. In this case, there's nothing, so I'm just going to leave it like that, and then put a semicolon. Now it's going to say there's an error. That is because I've created this method as a non-static method. But if I call something in the main method, I must have the static keyword here. So public static int, now my error is gone, as you can see. We're going to get more in details with static and what does it mean with when we get into objects. For now, we're just going to go on. Okay, so now if I run this again, you're going to see that it is going to do the exact same thing. So 60, okay, let's actually go with 10. And okay, yeah, so now what happened is that it ran like it should, but we haven't included any we don't print it on the screen. We didn't tell them to do that. So if we just do system.out, whoops, how did that happen? System.out, that print line, and put this inside. So don't forget, the subtractor here is just going to be an integer value. So this is going to execute, it's going to return the difference. And so now if I run this again, and I put, let me put something big, 100 and, I don't know, 20. All right, so now you're going to see on the screen. All right, So, you know, and I can also play with this around. I can just say something like, I can say like, if subtractor is bigger than, I forgot to, is bigger than, let's say 50, it's going to say big difference or something like that. And else, so if it's going to be smaller or equal to 50, it's going to say small difference, right? So we want to, I don't know why it's saying nanotime each time, right? Print system.println and small difference. All right, so let's see what happens when we do that. Oh, there's an error. Oh, I didn't put that out. Here we go. All right, let's try that out. So suppose I want to put something really big. So 1,000 and then minus by 500. And as you can see, it says big difference. If I suppose I want to put 4,000 and 3,900, something small, and it's going to say small difference. All right, so I think that was the most essential things for the if statements and the methods. I hope you learned from this video the basics of them, and in the future videos we're gonna touch more into while loops, for loops, and much more detailed version of these. So guys, so I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, please like it. Like always, if you have any feedback, if I go again too slow or too fast, please let me know. I'll see you in the other video. Thanks guys. Peace out.